Welcome back. We do have breaking news to bring to you. The latest figures for today have come in. For cases of coronavirus, there are now 107 additional cases of coronavirus. Reports coming in just moments ago. That now means we have 107 cases. 59 of those cases are in New Providence, 44 on Grand Bahama, 1 on Exuma, and 3 are pending. That means the total cases of coronavirus in the country are 1,531 cases. That's 209 people have recovered. So there are 1,296 active cases. Also of note on this is the number of deaths. There are now 22 deaths, which means there are an additional 2 persons additional 3 persons is actually saying have died to the coronavirus. But we know it was 20 yesterday, so it must be 22 today. I think their figures are an error here because they're saying 22 case deaths, but they're also saying they're calling it 3 deaths. So there are additional persons. It's 2 additional persons, according to the notes, who have passed away from coronavirus. And now, of course, we have 107 new cases today of coronavirus being recorded, according to health officials. We continue to monitor that for you as those figures come in. They're trying to get through, obviously, a backlog of cases. We heard that there were some 800 cases that were backlogged. They're now trying to get through those and test those and bring those current. So you have the additional 100 plus cases today. And of course, additional 2 deaths as a result being recorded as well. I want to get to our guest tonight. He comes from Grand Bahama, where he operates the Family Wellness Medical Center. He is a very qualified doctor, locally, regionally, and internationally as well, in so many areas. If I were to read all of this, it'll take up most of his talk time, so I won't get through all of this, but I can tell you he has a long resume and history of where he's worked in the U.S. on major boards, major medical boards, major certifications. He is well qualified to talk to us today, and I'm so happy that he is joining us via Zoom. Dr. Kevin Bethel from Grand Bahama joins us. Sir, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, and hello, Bahamas.
I want to get right in. I know we only have a certain amount of time tonight, so I want to get right in and allow you to be able to talk to us about coronavirus. And first of all, I want to ask, how are things on the island of Grand Bahama regarding patients that you've seen and that you've helped and served? What has been happening, and how have you been treating them, first of all?
Right. So we are seeing still a lot of cases come in. A lot of them are people that kind of already suspect that they have it because of contacts who tested positive. Very few surprises. But one of the things that I'm seeing is a lot of people that are getting tested not through my office, but through the hospital or other places. And they're being sent home with no treatment. And 2 weeks later, they're not getting any better. In some situations, actually getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And with what I'm going to share with you tonight, I initiate treatment, and within 24 hours, they're already 50% better. And within 3 days, it's basically like each 24 hours, they're 50% better. So after 4 days, they basically are feeling great.
And this is something
at all levels of sickness.
This is something that you're seeing on a regular basis. People coming in sick and you're treating them. Really?
Yes. Daily.
Well, doctor, please go ahead and tell us about this treatment that you're using.
Right. Well, it's treatment strategy. So what I'd like to organize things tonight for everyone to understand is we've got strategies that are used for preventing you from even catching the coronavirus. Then there are strategies for treatment. And there's a lot of things to cover in there, and that's more scientific, but that's more for your doctor to decide which one of those strategies for treatment are appropriate for your particular clinical manifestation. Because we now know that there are different varieties or variants of this virus, and each of them seem to present slightly different. And I can also tell you that the variant that is circulating on ground Bahama now is different than the variant that was circulating in April and March, different in their antibody response and different in their clinical presentation. So this means that there's also potential, as we know from other studies in other parts of the world, where some people seem to get it twice. So because and there's a couple reasons for that, and I have many studies I can reference to that, but some people, about 30%, don't seem to mount an appropriate immune antibody response, so they're susceptible to catching it again for that reason. But there's also the issue of there are different variants of the virus, and as we open up, a new variant comes on to our island, and we have to go through this round again, potentially. But there are also studies that show that people who've had any sort of coronavirus, even the common cold coronavirus, tend to have better equipped immune systems to deal with even the COVID-19. So the first strategy that I want to talk about, we're going to talk about strategies for prevention. And that's going to be something that people can really take and use. You've had guests on before that have talked about vitamin D and zinc and some of these other things, but I'm going to go through them. This is laid out very clearly. You got the first strategy, and it basically works from how the virus potentially gets into your body and replicates and works right through the holes, and we can intervene at every one of those steps. So the first thing is we want to get our immune system primed, the innate immune system. So vitamin D has over 2,000 documented mechanisms that are beneficial for the immune system and how it works. And I don't have time to cover all of those. I will give you a few scientific study slides later on after I go through the summary here. But vitamin D is number one on the list. It boosts your immune system so that it's strong, and it basically blocks the virus from even getting a foothold in your body. But suppose the virus does get access to your body, it has to bind to a receptor, and it has to bind to that receptor in order to activate to get into the cell. So we can use various prescription medicines, but there are also over-the-counter medicines like pycnogenol, which is extracted from the pine bark of pine trees, to cap off that receptor. And unlike prescription medicines that work on this ACE2 receptor, pycnogenol doesn't have any side effects. It doesn't lower people's blood pressure significantly, and it's widely available, much safer. There are studies to look at this, scientific studies, PubMed reference studies. All right, I'll give a list of some of those if we have time. Strategy number 3, so next level in, say the virus now gets onto that receptor, there's actually an enzyme that has to pull the RNA, the virus, into the cell. So we have ways to inhibit that serine protease enzyme that pulls the virus into the cell. So these are things that, the skin on the peanuts that we throw away, that's an odd one, but that is there. Green tea, papaya, and neem, and quercetin. So these are all foods or things, supplements that we can buy, and neem is basically a national pride product that we produce some of the best quality neem in the world. This could be an economic benefit for the entire Bahamas because we have something we can offer the rest of the world to help them deal with their coronavirus situation.
Doctor, let's pause right there. I want us to pause right there. Let's take a quick break and come back and continue with you.
Okay.
We'll be back right after this. Stay close.
So you want a space, but not just any space. You need something with a little more potential. So how about 1,000 square feet of room to play with? Superb audio and video production capability, digital LED wall, full lighting grid, and about 124 seats to accommodate a full studio audience with so many other features. Make us your home for your next concert, conference, and so much more. Honestly, the possibilities are endless. Here at ILTV Studios, we'd love to bring your next event to life. So what do you say? Do you want our space?
Give me my pizza right away. Gotta move quick, no time to wait. No long lines inside the place. Little Caesars, I love the taste. Hot and ready. Just come now, you don't have to call, now you don't have to wait. Hot and ready. Large pepperoni, $7.99 every day. Hot and ready. Oh, yeah. Straight out the oven and freshly made. Hot and ready. Little Caesars is hot and ready. Little Caesars is. Get yours now at Oaksfield, Carmichael Road, and now East Street South, Pineapple Plaza. Pizza, pizza.
Welcome back. My guest tonight is Dr. Kevin Bethel from the Freeport Family Wellness Center in Grand Bahama, talking about how to prevent, how to treat, and how to build your system after coronavirus. I think this is so important information he's sharing us. I want to bring Dr. Bethel back on the line and allow him to continue sharing with us this important information, because he has seen for himself the proof of treating his patients and seeing them recover and recover quickly in a matter of days. Go ahead, Doctor. Back over to you.
Thank you very much, Clint. So where we were still finishing off on prevention, the most important thing is vitamin D. The second most important thing is actually strategy number 4, which is zinc. Zinc is so important for so many things in the body and in the immune system. All right. But one of the things it does, particularly for the COVID-19, it does a few things, including modulating this angiotensin receptor and other things. But the most important thing, in my opinion, is it inhibits the enzyme that replicates the virus, the RNA polymerase. It inhibits that enzyme that basically duplicates, like a Xerox machine, of all of the virus. So if we can inhibit that, it's crucial juncture of the infection, that's basically shutting it down. So zinc and vitamin D are the most important things. So, I have some interesting studies. I'll just very quickly go to beef it out a little bit about vitamin D. So there was a big Israeli study of almost 8,000 people, and they showed a direct correlation of the lower your vitamin D level, the more likely you are to catch the virus, the more likely you are to get sick from it, and the more likely you are to die from it. Direct correlation. The inverse was also true. The higher your levels of vitamin D, when they tested these people, the less likely you are to catch the virus, the less likely you are to get sick and get symptoms, and the less likely you are to die.
Say that again, doctor. I want to punch the pause. Say that again, doctor. You're saying
yes.
The more vitamin D you have, the better your chances.
In your system.
In your system. The better chances you have.
The better chances for survival, the less likely chance that you will even catch it.
Wow.
The less likely chance that you will get symptoms and get sick, even if you do catch it. And then the less likely chance you'll be hospitalized or die.
Wow.
They looked at it on the whole spectrum. All right.
Thank you.
And, they looked at it in both directions, basically. It's a big study. But the next thing is the United Kingdom has done a huge study. So the National Health Service, they plan to have a study that's over 100,000 people that they've enrolled. And they're going to take this study, basically the same study they did in Israel, to the next level. What they're going to do is they're enrolling. So we don't have the final data on this. This is a current study that's underway, but it's a replication of the study that was done in Israel, a much larger version of it. But they're also looking at why is it that some people seem to have such low levels of vitamin D. All right. So they're looking at this from an ethnic point of view, because they all have, from previous other studies done in the national health system and other places in the world, that when you live in northern latitudes where you don't have any sun, the darker your skin, actually it's true for everywhere in the world, but the darker your skin, the less easy it is for your body to make vitamin D on its own. So therefore it is more important to supplement. So they're going to look at it from multiple points of view, and looking at it from different ethnic groups and male, female, and ages, and young and old. And they're going to slice and dice it even more than they did in Israel. So we'll get even more strong evidence from this study. All right. I have a slide about the pycnogenol and some of the mechanisms that it works. I only, put that there just to show that there are studies, in the scientific journals. Some of them have just come out recently in the past few months. Some of them go back to 2002 and 1999 and those type of times when they were trying them with the first outbreaks or previous outbreaks of coronavirus or SARS. The pycnogenol comes from the pine tree. All right. So the best way to take it is to get it in a capsule form, but obviously we do have pine trees, and it's unknown exactly how much pycnogenol you would get from our pine trees here, but certainly it's not dangerous to drink pine needle tea as long as you're not doing something silly like spraying pesticide on it, which who does that anyway, but anyway, neem. Neem is also, like I say, a source of national pride for the Bahamas, and we have evidence that it works as a protease inhibitor to block the intake of the virus into the cell. So this is something that people can pick in their yards, and I mean, we have it. They can buy it in capsules, and I mean, it's just available. It's food. Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food. Zinc. So I have a slide about zinc and some of the many things that zinc does, and this is not a complete list, by the way, but some of the important things that zinc does for fighting off respiratory infections and down-regulating the inflammatory cascade. But like I said, it is a potent inhibitor of RNA polymerase. There are about 25,000 studies looking at zinc and how it inhibits viruses. 25,000 studies. All right. Now, specifically for COVID-19, there's about 20 studies, specifically, clinical trials, the one that doctors like to see, these double-blind clinical trials. Not all of them are double-blind, but there are clinical trials already out about zinc and how it works. But we know the mechanism from many other viruses, including Zika viruses. All of these are RNA viruses that all use the same enzyme to replicate themselves. All right, it's a common mechanism, and we know from almost every other RNA virus that they've looked at that it works great to just shut down the ability of the virus to reproduce itself inside of our cells. So I'd like to move on to treatment. Now, this like I mentioned before, is something that obviously if you get tested positive and you're actually sick, you need the advice of a doctor. Your doctor will tell you which one of these strategies is going to be most appropriate for you. And you see that I have the strategies broken down like into A, B, and C, because it depends on the variant of virus that you're getting and the clinical manifestations. So I'm going to make it real simple. The most important thing is strategy number 5, which is this quinine. Hydroxychloroquine is a prescriptionized version of the natural product quinine. And I've already mentioned quercetin. Quercetin plays multiple roles in inhibiting the virus, so that would probably be number 3 on my most important list behind vitamin D and zinc, because it plays such an important role. But the reason it works is it works to increase the concentration of zinc inside the cell. So in the infected cells, it gets the zinc at super high concentrations in the infected cells to make sure that we shut down that viral replication. It stops it dead in its tracks. And I'll diverge here just to say that I've had countless numbers of families and various different scenarios where sometimes one person is a client of mine or heard a talk of mine and they got themselves on vitamin D and zinc. Their spouse, for whatever reason, sees another doctor. The other doctor poo-pooed it and they wouldn't take it. That person who didn't take it got sick. Everyone in the house that was on the vitamin D and zinc, and they're intimate. We're talking spouses, right? They're intimate with that person. They test negative. They do not catch the virus. Now, I cannot say that this is going to be 100% for everybody because it's obviously, dose dependent and stuff, but it is so simple.
And Dr. Bethel, I got to tell you, while we go into a break, I got a call from a friend of mine in Grand Bahama today who got his test results back today, and he's negative with coronavirus. And he's been using your medication, your recommendations.
And he's probably been intimately exposed.
He's been intimately exposed because his wife had coronavirus, and they've been intimate. They've been together, sharing the same thing. She had the symptoms. She's now doing much better because she's been treated by you. But he never stopped being with his wife, and because he was on your regimen, he took his test, and there's no coronavirus. He went crazy today, as you can imagine.
I think I'll add a little bit to that. So she was sick because she got tested somewhere else, because I think I know who you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And she was sick for about 2 weeks, wasn't getting better because she didn't get any treatment, right? So finally, he convinced her to go on this very simple protocol. And within a day, she started to feel better.
Wow.
Within a day, after 2 weeks of getting sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker, right? And not getting better is the main point. And meanwhile, that virus is damaging the organs in the body. And before we go to break, pulmonary function, guys, you have to measure your lung function with this machine to know if it's damaging your lungs. All right, we'll come back to this.
Let's go to that. Let's go to a break. We're back after this. Stay close.
Yeah.
So you want a space, but not just any space. You need something with a little more potential. So how about 1,000 square feet of room to play with? Superb audio and video production capability, digital LED wall, full lighting grid, and about 124 seats to accommodate a full studio audience with so many other features. Make us your home for your next concert, conference, and so much more. Honestly, the possibilities are endless. Here at ILTV Studios, we'd love to bring your next event to life. So what do you say? Do you want our space?
Here are a few tips on how you can prepare and protect your family and home during this hurricane season. It's important to secure your property. Check your insurance documents and make sure that they are up to date. Be sure to place all important documents like conveyance or deeds to your home, house plans, and passports in a safe and secured water-resistant bag. Making digital copies are also a great way to manage a backup system for your information. Ensure that your windows are protected and that you remove and secure all loose objects around your property. Help us keep you updated and informed as we prepare our island and protect our home.
Okay, let's get back quickly to Dr. Bethel because there's so many questions coming in. Dr. Bethel, I think everybody wants to know, first of all, what was this regimen that you're using, particularly on the clients that are causing them to recover?
Okay, zinc and vitamin D daily as prevention. And when they become sick with symptoms, I just have them take it twice a day, and I will add one of these 3 Qs, hydroxychloroquine, quinine, or quercetin.
So we're hearing this hydroxychloroquine again, and the zinc combination, which is being used by a doctor here, where we did a show is actually working. So this is actually working.
Oh yeah. Oh yes, definitely. Definitely. So again, it depends on how sick people are, you know, so I tend to, the hydroxychloroquine is a prescription medicine. Quinine used to be available over the counter here. Quercetin is available over the counter. Okay. So, it's just availability, but I have a nice slide that we can jump to that one. That's the slide that has the graph where it shows the countries, the rate of deaths in countries that have quote unquote banned the use of hydroxychloroquine, as opposed to the countries that have adopted the use of hydroxychloroquine properly used with zinc. The death rates are dramatically less. So that graph just speaks for itself. I don't even need to go over it. It's just so obvious. All right. And that's data. That is science. That is science. Okay. All right. Now, I want to go over quickly strategy number 6, because this virus has those spike proteins on it, right? So there are about 3 major classes of these spike proteins. Each of those proteins themselves, besides binding to the cell and having multiple ways to get into the cell, the proteins themselves trigger off cytokine toxic pathways. And we have medical treatments to deal with each of those inflammatory cytokine cascades. And it's when someone gets sick enough and they get this cascade that's spiraling down, that's when they deteriorate and end up having the blood clots and strokes and heart attacks and respiratory failure, and on the list goes. All right. Amputations of their legs and all kinds of symptoms. And we have strategies to deal with that, all supported by PubMed, information. An interesting one is this NLRP3 inflammatory pathway. No one talks about this one, but a lot of the patients that have COVID-19 all over the internet and everything, they describe how it affects their mind sometimes, and they can't sleep, and they're hallucinating, and they're it's melatonin. That's because their body has depleted itself. This inflammatory cascade completely depletes the body of melatonin. So those patients need supplementing. So basically, your doctor will decide which one of these different strategies for treatment are appropriate for your particular clinical presentation. All right. My job is not to try and educate viewers and the lay public on how treatment. That's the role of your doctor. Your doctor needs to read the studies and know how to deal with it. All right. Hydroxychloroquine. Like I say, we can go over that in many details. I have a little slide of an old poster from that I love to show from the pandemic of 1918, which was a French poster that showed the public service announcement urging people to please take their quinine. If you don't take it well, you're going to die. If you take it well, then you can be like the soldier on the that's got the woman at his side, ready to. I mean, he looks fit and virile. All right. This is not new. That's the point I put this. This is over 100 years. We've known this. We've used it to treat other pandemics. We know it works. We know the mechanisms. We know the science. So there's and we're learning more. I mean, not that we know everything. We keep learning more about how this medicine exactly works and what medicines it combines with to work even better. So quercetin also has a lot of published literature in support directly with use. There's clinical 9 PubMed clinical trials with quercetin for SARS-CoV-2, the COVID-19. But there's many other studies. I mean, looking at it from multiple different points of view, and a lot of them in major journals. The Frontiers of Immunology and Biomedicines. Major.
Doc, we got to pause one more time for another break. I don't know what's going on all these breaks tonight. We got to pause one more time, and then we'll be right back right after this. Stay close.
With quality, Wendy's is built on quality. From relocating our Mackey Street restaurant to enhance the dining experience, to ensuring that our customer service meets the experience that our guests deserve. We do it Dave's way. We don't cut corners, ever. This is our commitment to you and your family. Quality in everything we do. It's what we stand for. It's who we are. Quality is our recipe.
Let's get back to our guest, Dr. Bethel, Kevin Bethel. We've got about 10 minutes left on this show, Doctor. So I need you to get all that you could get into this last 10 minutes.
I'm going to get it in.
Get it in. Yeah. Go ahead. Go for yourself, sir.
We're going to go straight to recovery, all right? We're going to go to recovery. Data is now coming out that's absolutely fascinating from other countries in the long-term effects that the COVID-19, even in so-called asymptomatic people. This is important for everyone to know. Asymptomatic people means you have symptoms that are so mild that you wouldn't normally see a doctor about this, right? So even in those people, we're finding that they have up to a 30% decrease in pulmonary function. As I said, measured with, scientifically with a pulmonary function measuring device, okay? And with oxygen concentration. So we're seeing this. I'm seeing this in people that are quote unquote asymptomatic. Of course, someone who's sick, they get even worse. They get, below 50%, sometimes 25% lung function of what predicted what they should be getting. And anyway, so we need a strategy moving forward. We already know how to prevent it, and God forbid you catch it. We know how to treat it, but we also need to deal with the consequences of getting it, the damage to the lungs. So the most important thing is this N-acetylcysteine. Now, N-acetylcysteine is not new. All right, it's been around. It's been used to treat lung infections and lung exposures to chemical exposures, to smoke exposures, to mold exposures. It's useful in that. I don't have time to go through all the science. I have some of the references on some of the slides if they get put up, to look at. But the most important thing I want to talk about in terms of recovery is a slide. Let's go to that COVID dashboard comparison from July the 4th to the 4th of August. Now, the numbers have changed. I grant you that. But the most important thing that struck me when I saw that was the number of recovered cases was terrible. We have no people recovering. And That can be partly because we have such a inadequate contact tracing and follow up in the government system to actually follow up and find out if people are still alive or how they're feeling, and because they weren't getting treatment, of course, 2 weeks later, they're not feeling better. 2 months later, as the previous studies I talked about from Italy and stuff, they weren't feeling better. We were seeing that here clinically. But of course, as soon as they get treatment, they feel better. All right. So that slide is the important thing there. It caused us to be, this is from your show, by the way, ranked at the bottom of the country list, embarrassing to say the least, bottom of the list in effectiveness in dealing with this pandemic. Compare ourselves to countries like Vietnam. Vietnam put themselves on a complete lockdown. They got 99 days completely free. They noticed, like I've noticed and other doctors here have noticed, that when it came back through the second wave, when they started to open up, the virus was different. It was different clinically. It was more infectious. It was able to transmit through our masks. There was a lot of things different about it. But the odd thing that was striking about their observations and their reports is that this variety that showed up in Vietnam wasn't a new mutation. It was a variant of the virus that appeared back in March in the United Kingdom and found its way back to Asia and Bangladesh and somehow back into Vietnam when they started to open up again. So the point is that there was a whole bunch of these variants that are simultaneously all over the world. And as we open up, we're going to be exposed to different strains, which makes it very difficult to put our hopes on any sort of vaccine, because all of the vaccines are being developed based on the original Chinese variant, which doesn't seem to be the one that's circulating in the world right now. So I'm not saying that they don't need to try, but guess what? Don't hold your breath on that one. All right. An Italian study, this is the one I was actually referencing earlier, about 2 months after recovery, meaning they tested negative. 50% of people were still describing fatigue. 43% were describing shortness of breath, joint pain, chest pain, cough. Only 13% of people described that they had zero symptoms at 2 months. Because they hadn't quite at this point, this was a study that was done from March through to, I think, when it was published in June. They hadn't quite figured out a lot of the things that I'm now describing to you. So these people didn't really receive the type of treatment that I am describing to the viewers right now. And that's the consequence of it. 2 months later, they're still basically crippled, even though they no longer have the virus in their system. All right?
Wow.
All right? It's sobering. It's sobering. But it's totally unnecessary, because when you have boots on the grounds and hands in the dirt like I do, and you treat people, they get better. I keep telling people that this COVID is one of the easiest viruses to treat. And it may be because so many brilliant minds in the world are devoting so much more attention to this, and we have all of this data, reams and reams of data. All right. There's important data here I don't have time to go over from China about the antibodies. And there's some important things the important things is about 40% of people at the 2 month mark after getting infected didn't have any antibodies in their system. So this is one of the reasons, like I mentioned in the beginning of the show, that some people seem to catch it again. There are other reasons that this may be happening, but this is one of them. So we need to also look at doing antibody testing on people. All right, and I don't have time to go into the difference between the antibody test and the nose swab PCR test that we're currently using as our standard. But there's a value in doing the antibody test that maybe on another time I can come on and talk about that when it's appropriate.
Let me ask you, doctor, because people are asking about what amount of dosage of vitamin D and zinc should they take a day to help themselves.
Right. That's on the summary slide. If you want to put that up again on the prevention, you'll see that it's 5,000 units a day. Now, some people will then ask, what about little children? So it's 1,000 units for each 5 years of age until adulthood, when it's 5,000 units a day. All right. So 1,000 units for a 5-year-old is fine. That is perfectly safe. All right. And we're not talking about taking it for months and months and months, hopefully, because hopefully we get the entire country on zinc and vitamin D and get rid of this thing. Face it head on. Hiding inside like ninnies is not a scientific strategy. This, what I'm presenting to you, is a scientific strategy to deal with this virus.
Let me ask you, doctor, because we're seeing doctors like yourself and the other doctors we've had on, Dr. Lockhart, and of course the other doctor who we talked to initially about the medication that she was using to treat with people. My question really is, why haven't the authorities engaged physicians like yourself to help deal with this problem in the Bahamas? The wealth of knowledge and experience that you guys have had and you've shared, why aren't the officials using you?
All right. You may have noticed in my introduction, if the slide came up, that I am also a medical consultant and instructor in Latvia at Amber Life Clinic in Latvia. And the important thing with that is that when I was in Latvia in January, I got the chance to treat someone with COVID-19. I got to see someone. So I came home the 1st of February with already dirt on my boots. And I called for an emergency meeting from the doctors, and I said, this is something that we need. And I started this same information that I'm presenting tonight in its earlier reiteration, its earlier version, I presented to the Medical Association multiple times. I sent it to the Prime Minister. I sent it to the Minister of Health. I begged them, please instruct the pharmacists to, while it's still available, stock up on vitamin D and zinc, quercetin, quinine, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, these type of medicines. I didn't get to cover ivermectin, but believe me, I know all the science and can love to talk to people about when it's appropriate to use that, and it's not always appropriate. But on and on the list goes. So the thing is that I don't know why. I don't know why. I had doctors from all over the world calling me up and asking about this and stuff, but my own Bahamian doctors just seem to be in a state of shock, is what I think. I think they just didn't think that this could possibly be happening. But I was telling them that it is happening, and we have strategies to deal with it. And that's the good news. I'm a bringer of good news, not bad news. I'm a bringer of good news.
Yes, you're bringing us good news. Dr. Letitia McIntosh bringing us good news. Dr. Lockhart bringing us good news. There are Bahamian doctors in this country that want to help bring this crisis under control, and it seems as if those in authority are ignoring them.
Right. Well, if you will listen carefully to the Prime Minister's speech, he did say several times that he is following the instruction from international authorities, and he used the word like the World Health, the WHO. So somebody like the World Health Organization is instructing them to behave this way.
Doctor, we got to go. I'm out of time. You're coming, Doctor, I'm not even asking you. You're coming back. You're coming back. We're going to get you back on to finish talk about this, because we got to help our people out of this crisis. Dr. Bethel, hats off to you. We salute you to what you're doing, Grandmama. Grand Bahamians are lucky to have you, sir. Thank you so much. We'll connect back with you again. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye, Bahamas.
That's our show. Thanks so much for joining us. Speechless. Good night.